Walk into the imperial palace of Heian-kyo in the year 1000 AD, and the first thing you notice is the silence. Thick silk rustles across polished wooden floors. Incense coils towards cedar-beamed ceilings. Somewhere behind a screen, a woman you will never see is composing a poem that could destroy a man's career. This is the golden age of Japan. 4 centuries of peace, the birth of the world's first novel. Art so refined, it makes European courts look like barnyards. But here's what nobody tells you about this paradise. The average noblewoman died at 27, men at 32. They painted their teeth black until their mouths looked like empty graves. They wore 20 kilograms of silk in summer heat and were considered vulgar if they moved too much. They starved themselves on a diet of rice and dried fish while beriberi rotted their nerves. And they called this miyabi, the supreme elegance. This is the story of the Heian court, the most beautiful prison ever built. And by the end, you'll have to ask yourself, could you have survived it? Here's what you need to understand about Heian Japan. Rank was not a detail. Rank was the air you breathed. The court had 30 official grades. 30. Everything you wore, the color of your robes, the height of your gatepost, even the number of folds in your fan, all dictated by a number assigned to your family at birth, and you never ever escaped it. Change rank? Impossible. Marry up? That was the entire strategy of the Fujiwara clan, and they mastered it so completely that for 200 years, emperors were born to Fujiwara mothers, crowned as children and forced to abdicate at 30 so the next Fujiwara puppet could take over. The emperor was the most powerful symbol in the nation and a complete political hostage. But here's where the story takes an astonishing turn. The men who actually ran the government were also trapped by the same system. They were so busy attending ceremonies, 2/3 of the year was consumed by religious rituals, that they had zero time to govern. The real administration of Japan happened in the margins, by assistants and deputies, while the nobles themselves were occupied with what really mattered: poetry contests, incense guessing games, and making sure nobody wore the wrong shade of crimson. Wear a robe reserved for a grade above yours? Exile. Use a gate too tall for your station? Scandal. Address someone by the wrong honorific? You just made an enemy for 3 generations. This was a society where appearance was reality. The word itself, miyabi, means refined taste. And taste was not subjective, it was law. Now meet the women of the court, and you will meet them through fabric, because you were never supposed to see them directly. A Heian noblewoman began her day before dawn. Attendants would arrive with the first task, dressing. The junihitoe, the 12-layered robe. 12 is approximate. Some women wore up to 20 layers. Each layer a different color, chosen not for comfort, but for the season, the occasion, and the woman's rank. Get the color combination wrong, and the entire court would know within hours. The total weight towards 20 kilograms, 44 pounds. In Kyoto summer, no air circulation. The silk trapped heat like an oven. Women barely moved, not just because movement was considered ungraceful, but because moving 20 kilos of fabric across a palace compound was genuinely exhausting. Heat stroke, dehydration, fainting, these were not accidents. They were the price of beauty. Once dressed, the face. A paste of rice powder was applied layer by layer until the skin was perfectly white. Not skin-colored, not natural. White like paper. The goal was to eliminate any trace of the actual person underneath. Perceptions. Then the eyebrows were shaved off completely, and redrawn, not where eyebrows naturally sit, but high on the forehead, in soft charcoal smudges. The effect was supposed to be serene, otherworldly. It looked, to anyone outside that culture, like a mask. And then the teeth. O'Connell. A mixture of iron filings dissolved in vinegar, painted onto the teeth until they turned jet black. The ideal Heian mouth was a dark, toothless oval when the woman smiled. White teeth were considered disgusting. Quote, "They look just like peeled caterpillars," end quote, wrote one court critic. To us, this is body horror. To the Heian aristocracy, it was the height of sophistication. Black teeth meant you were married, mature, civilized. White teeth were for children, peasants, and animals. This is not a joke. This was the beauty standard for 400 years. But the most important body part, the one that could make or break a woman's entire future, was something you couldn't paint or dress. Her hair. Heian women wore their hair in a style called suberakashi, straight, uncut, flowing down the back. The ideal length was longer than the woman was tall. Some noble women had hair that trailed several feet behind them on the floor. They washed it with rice water, oiled it with camellia, and spent hours every day just maintaining it. And almost nobody ever saw it. Because here's what makes Heian society genuinely alien. Men and women did not interact face to face. A noble woman spent her entire life behind screens, blinds, and curtains. When a male visitor arrived, even her own husband, she stayed hidden. He might see the edge of a sleeve, a flash of hair slipping beneath the curtain. That was it. That was intimacy. Courtship happened entirely through poetry. A man would catch a rumor of a woman's beauty. Her hair had written that had circulated through the court. He would send her a waka, a 31-syllable poem. If she responded, and if her poem demonstrated enough wit, education, and emotional subtlety, he might be permitted to visit. At night, in near total darkness, the woman still stayed behind a screen or curtain. They would talk, exchange more poetry. If all went well, he would stay until dawn, but must leave before sunrise, because to be seen leaving a woman's chambers in daylight was a scandal. Now ask yourself, could you build a marriage on poems and darkness? Federally couldn't. Love affairs were epidemic. Promiscuity was expected for both men and women. The court was a tangle of secret liaisons, jealous rivals, and children whose real fathers were unknown. Get caught in the wrong affair? Demotion, exile, sometimes worse. Yet, out of this suffocating, strange, beauty-obsessed world came the greatest literary achievement of pre-modern Japan. Murasaki Shikibu, a lady-in-waiting, wrote the tale of Genji, the world's first psychological novel. 1,000 pages following the love life of a fictional prince. She wrote it in secret, in a phonetic script called kana, that women had developed precisely because they were excluded from the Chinese writing that men used to show off their education. The men were busy writing bad Chinese poetry nobody remembers. The women, hidden behind their screens, invented Japanese literature. Wrote the Pillow Book, a diary so sharp, so observant, so casually cruel about lower-ranking people that it's still read today. She mocked carpenters for eating too fast. She rated lovers by the quality of their dawn poetry. She was petty, brilliant, and utterly honest about the world she inhabited. These women died at 40. 40 was considered old. Murasaki herself wrote that women would be better off dying young, before their beauty faded and they became objects of pity. Let's talk about what killed them. Step back from the silk and the poetry and look at the actual bodies inside those robes. The diet of the Heian nobility was a slow poison. Buddhist prohibitions banned the eating of four-legged animals. Chicken was forbidden. Fresh seafood was rare. The aristocrats subsisted on rice, half-husked, hard to digest, and dried fish with some seaweed for vitamins. The result? Beriberi, a thiamine deficiency that destroys the nervous system. Your limbs go numb, your muscles waste, your heart fails. 20% of all deaths in the court were from beriberi. Preventable. Entirely. Tuberculosis. 54% of deaths. The palaces were beautiful, but they were also dark, cold and damp. Wooden floors without ceiling boards. Oil lamps that produced soot so thick that Murasaki Shikibu, writing by lamplight, would have had black nostrils by the end of a night's work. Winters were brutal. The late Heian period was the coldest stretch in Japanese history. The court relied on small charcoal braziers that were about as useful as holding a candle in a blizzard. Aristocrats huddled under massive padded robes, conjuring vengeful ghosts out of the cold and the dark. And the hygiene. Bathing was not a daily ritual, it was a ceremonial event. Teeth were painted with an iron and vinegar solution that eroded enamel. The white face powder contained lead. Women's bodies crushed under 20 sunlight. The average noblewoman died at 27, the average man at 32. Infant mortality was catastrophic. The golden age of Japan was, from the perspective of the human body, a catastrophe dressed in beautiful silk. And yet, through Kyoto today, and you are walking through Heian's ghost. The grid of streets is the same grid laid out in 794. The festivals, Gion Matsuri, Aoi Matsuri, trace directly to Heian rituals. The aesthetic of wabi-sabi, of finding beauty in impermanence, was born in those silk-draped halls. The women who could not show their faces wrote books we still read. The men who wasted their lives on poetry contests built a culture that would define Japan for 1,000 years. The system was brutal, absurd, and in many ways monstrous, and out of it came some of the most enduring art in human history. Sometimes beauty and cruelty aren't opposites. Sometimes they're the same thing, seen from different angles. Heian courtiers understood that better than anyone. They called it mono no aware, the bittersweet awareness of impermanence. Everything fades. The cherry blossoms, the poetry, the 20-kilogram robes, the blackened teeth, the empire itself. They clung so desperately to the rules, because if you can control the color of your robes, you don't have to think about the fact that you'll be dead at 32. The Heian court didn't survive. The warriors came, the samurai. The world outside the silk curtains eventually tore them down. But for 400 years, a handful of aristocrats lived inside the most elaborate, most beautiful, most quietly deadly dream in human history. And now you know what it cost them. If you enjoyed this journey, hit like and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden realities of history. And let me know in the comments, could you have survived the court? The 20 kilos of silk, the blackened teeth, the poems in the dark? Or would you have been exiled within the first week? As always, we'll see you in the past.